What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Yesterday, Nintendo was called out by a developer, and this is actually around an issue currently with Nintendo's platform that we've been talking about for years now, and something we would like to see, I'd say, addressed and improved on going into next generation, but we'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Microsoft and what makes an Xbox now for them, and even the plans or their future plans for that platform, since at this point, apparently, everything is an Xbox. And then we also have Ubisoft. While they have been going through it, there is a pretty big franchise that they apparently have a couple of games in the work, and some new information has leaked out showing how they're working to completely change and reform the Far Cry series. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps it a ton. And if new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members of the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button down below this video. And we're gonna start today with a strange situation with Intergalactic, which is Sony and Naughty Dog's new game that was first unveiled recently at the Game Awards. As it appears, the entire plot leaked out online. At least that's what was circulating on the internet, and well, you gotta trust that it's on the internet, right? Well, in this case, we can see this is posted up. This is over on Twitter X from Snake, saying the full plot for Intergalactic just got leaked. Spoilers, of course, but what do you think? Story behind the leak below. So this links to 4chan, and look, this post on Twitter got like over 1 million views, like in record time. It's like 9 hours or something. It's very quick. And the 4chan post describes a disgruntled Naughty Dog employee who saw Neil Druckmann rising to power and wanted to stop him from world domination, so they decided to leak the entirety of the plot of a game that was just revealed the day before. You know, not last week, before we knew all the details, or at least most of the details from that initial trailer. If they had done it in that order, I'd be like, oh, okay, something's happening here. But in this case, no, this is completely fake. And one of the things that's really funny is they said Jason Schreier was also sent these plot details and information. They're mulling over if they should be posting about it. And he quickly dismissed that by just saying, no, none of that's true. So this situation of the lie circulating around the world much faster than that truth, which is still getting its shoes on. So yeah, strange situation, but if you see any information going around about that, no, the plot for Intergalactic has not leaked out. Also, Balatro did get a rating from Peggy, and it appears the creator was not excited about it, which we can see this is posted up. This is by Local Thunk, who said, since Peggy gave us an 18+ rating for having evil playing cards, maybe I should add microtransactions, loot boxes, real gambling to lower that rating to 3+ like EA Sports FC. Whew, well, I mean, yeah, you know what? You'll learn over time when some of these things happen. So we got to get the microtransactions in the Balatro. It is funny that Balatro gets an 18+, but then you have things like Ultimate Team and stuff get 3+ for FIFA, or in this case, FC at this point. So I get what they're saying here. I guess just, I don't know, they said evil cards. I don't know why Balatro is 18+. I don't know if it's the depictions on the cards or what. The idea of it kind of mimicking, I guess really mimicking like a gambling or poker or something. It seems very strange, sure. But hey, now you know, for the sequel, get all the microtransactions, the battle passes, everything. Then we get that E for everyone right on the box. Oh, and I have some good news here for Tales fans, especially for fans who would like to see some of the previous ones revisited on new hardware with different upgrades. As you can see this over on Gamatsu. Say the Tales of Series Remastered project will continue after the release of Tales of Grace's F Remastered with a consistent line of remastered works. That's according to the series producer here, and it appears they have like an entire team now that's just going to be devoted to that pipeline. So you're just going to see a bunch of different Tales games get the remastered treatment. So I'm sure there are so many of you Tales fans could be rattling off right now. I mean, one that comes to mind is Tales of the Abyss. That'd be kind of cool, I guess. I'm not the biggest, like, oh, go back and play all the legacy Tales games. I guess Xillia 1 and 2, but let me know down in the comments which Tales games you would like to see brought up to modern platforms and get a bit of a we'll say the remastered makeover treatment. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo getting called out by a developer over the eShop, which isn't too surprising when you look at the eShop. It's covered in what's just junk and shovelware and cheap knockoffs. That's 99% of what you see when you first go into the recent or upcoming releases. I mean, the good stuff is all buried under pretty much the same game over and over and over again under different names, or even just things that are imitating other games that are, we'll say, like normal releases or higher quality releases. And this happened again recently, but this time it appeared the developer decided to put Nintendo on blast because they really hadn't heard from Nintendo. We can see this is posted up though. This is by Eurogamer. It says the creative director of indie hit Unpacking has called out Nintendo due to the prominence of copycat games on its Switch eShop. We can see this was shared over on their Blue Sky account. They say it's been over 2 weeks and these are still in the eShop. Nintendo hasn't responded to any of our reports of these egregious scams which are using our trademarked game name and purposely tricking Nintendo customers into buying cheap fakes. Now, fortunately, they did screenshot it here, but this had been going on for weeks, apparently, where they had been trying to get a hold of Nintendo and like, hey, this is just sitting there and it shows up next to our game. So you have Unpacking and then you have a bunch of like DLC. So Unpacking Universe Dreams, Unpacking Deluxe Edition. Think about that. There's Unpacking, then there's Deluxe Edition right next to it. Many people would probably just buy the Deluxe Edition, especially since it's marked down. And that's typically a tactic of these imitation games where you'll see it with a pretty substantial amount knocked off of it. So you might see 70%, 80%, and all of a sudden the thing's $1. And it's like, oh, well, sure, I'll buy it. And it ends up being some terrible flash game that's super low quality. And it is good that they decided to screenshot this, because I decided to look up some of these games now just after they were posted, then a few hours later, and they're gone. So in this case, Nintendo, I guess, did respond after they were put on blast publicly. And this is again the issue with the eShop right now. It's not well curated. It's just buried in junk, and I'm pretty sure everyone just about has mentioned this at some point in time. Just because if you use the eShop, you're aware of it now. Nintendo has done some alterations to the eShop to sort of at least give us an idea of sorting things out on the left bar. But if you go on, again, recent releases or upcoming releases, it's such a difficult thing to navigate. Then on top of that, the entire eShop is like super slow. It just crawls through things. So think about that. It takes forever just to scroll through it. And then you have hundreds of different games that barely qualify as games, clogging things up further. And then you get into the whole situation around different trademarks being infringed on here, this case with Unpacking, but other games do that too. And then I've also noticed some that just have all kinds of microtransactions attached to it, look like they were made in like RPG Maker from like 2002 or something. So that to me is one of the biggest things Nintendo needs to figure out going into next gen. And I feel like it's been beaten to death at this point. It's like being a dead horse, just saying, hey, the eShop has to get better. But when you have developers who are like, guys, it's putting stuff right next to our game and using our trademark to trick people into buying this, which then could reflect poorly on us, like, it's not exactly a great environment for indie developers even to publish their stuff. And that seemed to be the crowd that Nintendo was focusing on almost the most early on with the Switch. So here's hoping they realize this and start to, I would say, introduce a better eShop from the ground up for their next system, because going into next gen, starting, we'll say, next year in 2025, they're going to be rolling that even, we'll say, 8 years to 2033. And by then, who knows, it might just be completely digital by the time they go to the next gen. So that eShop is going to be more important than ever at that time. So here's hoping they have some plans to just make it, I'll say, even passable at this point. Next up, let's talk about Microsoft and their plans for the future of Xbox. What exactly is an Xbox at this point? For the longest time, it was a console you bought from them, but now it's sort of just a platform. And it can exist anywhere. Remember, this is an Xbox, and they were showing you everything. Well, now we're starting to see comments from not only like the press and the media, whether it's Jez Corden, but also from Satya Nadella himself. First, though, we'll start with Jez Corden. This was making the rounds and got the conversation started immediately, which is weird because I feel like we've heard this over and over and over again now. It's just, people are having a hard time coming to grips with this strategy from Microsoft because it is so different from pretty much what we've always known when it comes to games and exclusivity for different consoles. We can see this, though, posted up. This was over on VGC, who decided to kind of put all these different tweets together from Jez Corden at Windows Central as he was discussing the first-party strategy for Microsoft, saying Xbox won't have exclusives going forward. Everything is timed exclusive at most. saying if some games are exclusive, it's going to be incidental at best. The case-by-case argument is by and large going to be multi-plat timed, and with maybe a few, very few outliers. And then when responding to Fable as maybe a candidate for going to another platform, saying that game was monstrously expensive, it might not be day one, but it'll come with the current plan in place, in my opinion. And yeah, I think at this point, Microsoft saw what they were able to do with something like Sea of Thieves, which is actually pretty successful, seemingly, on PlayStation. So why wouldn't they, in their mind, to move software over just to get more sales? Call of Duty this year seemed to do really well on PlayStation, and it actually did pretty well on Xbox despite being on Game Pass. So in their mind, they can have their subscription service here, but then also have a la carte sales everywhere else, until maybe Game Pass starts moving to other platforms, but I wouldn't expect that to happen anytime soon. So Microsoft might just be fine with Game Pass as part of their revenue stream, while still selling games outside of that on PlayStation, Nintendo's platform, PC, mobile phones, as it seems like things are, while it's held up a little bit, are still going forward on, say, Android and eventually Apple. A lot of that is technically reliant on those walled gardens being pulled down with the help of the court system, but at least seems to be moving in the right direction for them, just a bit slower than they were expecting. But we also had Satya Nadella chime in here. We can see this is posted up. This is over on GameFile. There's also video of him basically saying this, saying the CEO cited Microsoft's current Xbox marketing campaign, which shows a wide range of machines, including Xbox consoles, TVs, VR headsets, and PCs, and declares this is an Xbox. Nadella said the campaign is an example of how the company is redefining what it means to be an Xbox fan. It's about being able to enjoy Xbox on all your devices. And again, we've heard this over and over and over, I feel like, but now, yeah, it's pretty clear. When you see that Indiana Jones announcement, as we did before, eventually it will follow up with also going to, say, PlayStation 5. Now, will it be timed exclusivity, and that's their strategy, at least for the short term? Maybe. But then you also see Outer Worlds 2, and oh yeah, that's also going to PlayStation 5 alongside of the Xbox series. And I just think now Microsoft sees that as their strategy to just make a bunch of money. And it does bring into question what their plans are going forward when it comes to hardware in their console. But as I understand, they're still just going to keep making consoles because why not? They see it as still an important pillar of their business, but if they can still make a bunch of money and technically not have to produce as many costly pieces of hardware like the Xbox, because it's not like it's cheap for them to make those. Usually they're subsidized on the front end and then made up on the back end. Well, then they would technically make more money on top of that. So if you make the same amount of money, but you have to produce like 20%, 30% of the consoles, then you're technically making more profit in their mind, and that's all what it comes down to, of course. So I think their strategy is to cast the widest net possible to bring in the most money possible. But I'm curious to see how things work out for them, because it's a new lane they're taking here when it comes to just gaming in general, and I don't know if it'll become the future, because Nintendo is very set in their ways, but Sony's kind of veering off a little bit there too with PC, and even putting Horizon, yes, Lego, but Horizon on the Switch. Who knows what the future holds, because it is some interesting times right now. Next up, let's talk about Ubisoft and their plans for Far Cry, as we did have Far Cry 6, and I played through it. I enjoyed it for what it was, but it's not exactly a memorable experience. Certainly not like what we had with, say, Far Cry 3, which, I mean, I thought was awesome. And Far Cry 4, I thought was pretty good, and 5 was alright, but then I started to kind of trail off a bit there, and it felt like I was going through the motions for Far Cry 6. Well, it appears Ubisoft is at least trying to figure out ways to change up the formula with their next release. In fact, they have 2 of them. Let's take a look. This is posted up by Insider Gaming as they had an exclusive report, and I'll leave a link down below in the sources for this if you'd like to read further, mostly because I'm going to focus on one of the 2 titles. Now, this was posted up on their website saying its next mainline title is now under the codename Blackbird, and an extraction-based shooter is under the codename Maverick. Both games are still in development at the time of writing, but their release dates have been pushed back internally from 2025 to 2026 due to the complexities in development. They are moving to Snowdrop, and under development at Ubisoft Montreal, both games are set to move away from the Far Cry formula. Blackbird is the one I wanted to talk about here, as it's going to be their more or less mainline Far Cry title. saying you'll now see the player have to rescue his family, not played by Cillian Murphy, who have been kidnapped by a conspiracy cult who have been performing hallucinogenic experiments on animals and children. It's said that the player has 24 real-life hours or 72 hours in-game to rescue their family, and the timer reflected in-game by the player wearing a watch on his wrist. It also appears that movement is going to be completely overhauled, so it sounds like it's going to be a bit faster, more when they were describing it, where you're going to be sliding and jumping and prone and all kinds of stuff in the air. Kind of reminded me a bit of what Call of Duty is doing right now, I guess, with Black Ops 6, but I just think it's going to be a bit faster to maybe get around and dodge and try to take some of the enemies by surprise. I guess the idea of this being more of like a real-time setup here where you're constantly against the clock. I'm curious how that would work exactly. So you have 72 hours in-game, which there were 72 real hours, right, of the 24-hour cycle. And when I played through Far Cry, it wouldn't take it like anywhere near that to beat the game. I guess to like 100% it and do everything maybe, but I don't know, something about having like a clock like that, like Majora's Mask setup there, but you're not rewinding time, I guess, is an interesting concept. I don't know. I have to see how it all works out necessarily here in the game, but I do like that they realize, oh, we should probably work to change that Far Cry formula. The biggest thing I'd like to see them change, though, is the idea of having a map and just too many points on it, because it eventually, to me, the fatigue sets in like halfway through, and then it really feels like you're just slogging through the game to get to the end of it. But I guess Far Cry fans out there have really enjoyed it because the series does continue to sell, but I don't mind the idea of a shakeup like this. So again, 2026, we're a ways out, but I am interested to see what they have for us with the next big Far Cry game. And in our last bit of news, I'm gonna make it more of a preview for a game from the Game Awards. There were so many games announced there, and a lot of them are kind of going under the radar. I wanted to go back occasionally and just put a spotlight on some of these different titles. And the first one was going to be Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. Now, of course, we have a trailer and some new screenshots and a lot of information that's kind of just floating around right now. So let's go over that here. And that does start with it being a 2D side-scroller, of course. This starring a new hero, Kenji Mozu. Now, Ryo Hayabusa left for America to honor his father's will. You kind of see that at the beginning, where they look at each other in the trailer and he sort of nods, and then here goes Kenji off to protect his village and all its people from this demonic threat. Apparently, like, reality shattered, and you have like these monsters coming through to attack the people, and of course he has to be able to defeat them and save the village. Now, I do like the design. It's like the sharp pixel design, sort of how they described it. And if you look at the opening cinematic, it pays complete homage to the original Ninja Gaiden game, which is awesome, where they jump up in the air and they slash, and it really, really cool stuff there. You know what, as I'm watching this trailer, it also reminds me of those nicely animated Game Boy Advance games. So I'm thinking of, I could say Ninja 5.0, but I'm thinking of like Castlevania or Mega Man Zero. Just that's more of a compliment in general. It has that callback while still looking modern, right, to like those old 2D platforming games. It is a collab between Dotemu, so think about like TMNT, Shredder's Revenge, and The Game Kitchen with Blasphemous, which is an awesome pairing here for Ninja Gaiden. Now, I'm not sure if this is a more linear design or a Metroidvania style. I'm going to lean towards classic Ninja Gaiden NES style for this one, and we're expecting it to release sometime summer 2025, and it's basically coming to everything. So PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox platforms, Switch, and PC through Steam. So very excited to check this one out at some point over the summer in 2025, and probably die a bunch of times as you go through it, hoping that Ninja Gaiden old school difficulty also comes with it, but we'll just have to hold out and see a bit more as we eventually get that official release date. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, have you played Okami? Okay, 64% say no. 36% say yes. I have good news. The game, last I saw, is on sale right now for $5. I think it's on like all platforms at $5. It's completely worth $5. Yes. If you were just about to ask that, I recommend going to pick it up. I think it's still aged very well, and some of that does have to do with just the art style and the graphical style. Just, I think, still looks awesome. Like, it really has translated over well, despite it coming out on the PlayStation 2 back in the day. That art style just transcends time, still looks awesome, especially if you have a nice TV, like a nice OLED or something. I think the colors really pop there, but just in general, the gameplay is a lot of fun. So yeah, I fully recommend it, especially for $5 when it's on sale. When it's not on sale, I think it's like $10. So either way, you can't really go wrong. Hey, if you can find it physically even, go ahead and grab it there. But yeah, definitely recommend Okami. Seems like we're still a ways off from the sequel. So if you don't think you're gonna have a chance to play it anytime soon, still I'd say get it, put it in the backlog, because you should have enough time, I think, to eventually get to it before that sequel releases. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Solo, who says, I can't believe people get so crazy over these ridiculous Switch rumors. I can't believe so many people are this obsessed with a gaming system. I'll tell you this though, the other day, because I'm coming up with different videos due over the holiday season when we'll have like a few days off from Newswave and stuff, and I want to still have videos. And there was one idea I had, which is to go back in time because I was able to finally dig up forums that still existed back in 1999, 2000, 2001. And I just wanted to see what people were saying then versus now. And we, of course, have like 24 years of hindsight at our advantage here. But even back then, people were like obsessed with the GameCube or the Dolphin that was coming up. They were obsessed with the Direct Xbox, everything. So this has been ongoing pretty much since the beginning of time. It feels like, when the start of internet rumors around different game consoles that were coming up and they were in development, all the really cool expectations for how incredible the visuals would be. Yeah, people were still kicking it back and forth on different forums, even 2 decades plus ago. But let me know if you would like to see a video where we literally go back and we just kind of explore some of the old days on different forums where people are talking back and forth on the internet about games from 2000 and 2001. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you wanted to see the full breakdown of the bracket we have right now for Game of the Year Madness. I did a video checking that out and going over it since voting is about to start. I'll leave that right below it. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.